everybody. John Aravosis here to talk Ukraine. Welcome TikTok, welcome YouTube, Twitch, blah, 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 blah. No offense to the rest of you. How are folks doing today? Hello, Scotland. I am visiting Chicago for the month, visiting Mutter. Hey, Nick. So hope everybody's doing well. Woo! I just got a little peckish, as the Brits say. Ran and got a few little donut holes Mom had, which are probably not exactly what I need since I've still got some COVID pounds, but what do you do? Peckish is a great word. I don't know that we have a comparable word in American English. Peckish, like a little bit hungry. Anyway. Whoa, Richard, whoa. Hey, everybody. So, yes, I've decided to move things around here. I've got TikTok on this side now because the powers that be told me it looks better to have my ceiling come to a point over my head. I don't know why, but apparently it's a thing. Although that's just TikTok. Thank you, Mike Webb, for that. The rest of you, the mic. Hello, you are correct about the mic. Maybe it would help me to move my microphone in front of my face. You think? Such demanding people you are. Thank you for whoever mentioned the mic. Oh, is that Sky Queen? There we go. Now I've got the mic there. For TikTok, actually TikTok too. My God, I'm spacing out today. It's setting it up at my mom's, so it's like I'm still not 100% up to speed on doing this as I am in DC. Exactly. Well, I don't have the big. I have here at mom's. I've got the Blue Snowball mic, which is a lot cheaper than my really nice mic I've got in Washington DC. But it's okay. Hey, everybody. Okay, there we go. Now I got my good mic for you, and I've got this mic for you. Much better. So, guys, I'm ready to dive right in. Thanks for joining us. I'm John Aravosis, here to talk about the latest from Ukraine. And just a quick update. I launched the fundraiser we talked about last night to raise money to put our TikTok community name and YouTube, etc., on the side of a howitzer in Ukraine. And it's a long story. I'll get into more of it later for anybody who's not familiar. But if you go over to my TikTok, you'll see a video I just put up, and you can donate by clicking the beacons link in my TikTok and giving via Cash App, Venmo. I'll tell you what they are right now. PayPal @Aravosis, Venmo @Aravosis, Cash App $Aravosis. I'll tell you more about it later, but basically we're going to raise money to help the Ukrainian troops, give them goggles, all sorts of stuff. And if we raise enough money as a thank you, they'll put our name on the side of a howitzer artillery thing for the rest of the war, which I think would be just freaking cool. We'll talk about it later. Let me get into the news. So it's just after midnight in Kyiv, the Ukrainian capital. It is Independence Day there. Hang on, I'm just turning my phone off because the vet is going to probably call me as I'm talking to you all. It is Independence Day in Ukraine today. It is also the 6-month anniversary of the launch of the war. So kind of an interesting coincidence. No, well, yeah, it is an interesting coincidence, actually. And the Russians are pretty much planning to blow the place up. The United States has warned its citizens for everyone to evacuate Ukraine entirely. That means that we've got specific intelligence that some bad stuff is going down. The Ukrainians are expecting the same thing to happen. What Putin does, we'll see. We had talked a couple days ago, actually yesterday, we talked about this whole issue with this woman, Dugina. I think it's Daria Dugina, who's a far-right nationalist, which is a very nice way of basically saying a fascist Nazi, in essence, but like fascist lunatic, wants all Ukrainians dead. Her father is even more famous than she is. He's just as bad as her. And somebody blew her up in a car bomb. Now it was 2 days ago. Was it yesterday? I can't remember. Was it still that recent? But at most it was 2 days ago. I think 2 days ago in Moscow, she was leaving a far-right crazy rally. Car blows up, car bomb, and within 24 hours, the Russians have figured out that it's a Ukrainian. And I mean, the story is so ridiculous. Basically, Putin is now using this story in order to buck up the Russians and justify bombing the bejesus out of Ukraine. Now, mind you, I always like to mention when things like this come up that, Putin's got a little problem. Because if he blows Ukraine up now, if I were there, well, if I were there, I probably wouldn't be alive because they'd kill me in a dictatorship. But I would be asking the question, why, Mr. Putin, did it take you 6 months to blow Ukraine up? You had a chance for 6 months now, but you waited until now to hit them with all your missiles, right? I mean, it's kind of it doesn't put him, thank you, Louis, for those. It doesn't put him in a really good spot because he's got to explain why he didn't do this earlier. In any case, Putin is using this woman's death to claim the Ukrainians did it. My favorite sort of aspect of the story is they're claiming, the Russians, it was this woman, I forget her name, Volk or something, I don't know, who with her 10-year-old kid in tow, set up a car bomb in this woman's car, and then again with her 10-year-old kid, the secret super duper James Bond spy had her 10-year-old child with her when she's installing a car bomb, and then following the woman's car and setting it off with a phone timer or something, again while she's babysitting her 10-year-old kid. That is just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. Oh, and she was carrying Azov Battalion ID with her, they claim, which proved she was an NZ. And I mean, so much about this story is fake. Somebody's mentioning on TikTok, correct, Bob Kramer saying she had an open casket funeral. I did see the photo. People are sharing it around. This woman in the casket is immaculate. I mean, immaculate. She looks great. I mean, funerals, but she looks great. And allegedly, sorry, Sasha's barking here. Allegedly, she was in a car bomb. Okay, allegedly it was under her seat, and her whole car blew up. Like, she was dead instantly, and she's looking like gorgeous in the funeral photo. I mean, give me a break. Any case, the point here is that Putin is now using this to basically get some good press, some good public relations. He's going to lob a lot of missiles at Russia, at Ukraine. And the idea, I was comparing this in the video I did on TikTok to the, remember the end of the Hunt for Red October, when What's-His-Face's character is basically defecting to America. And in order to convince his people that the sub blew up, and the Russians that it blew up, and it wasn't given to the Americans, they blow the sub, well, they do a false explosion of the sub blowing up, and you see all of his people go, yay, and then very solemn, and he gave his life for the country. This is kind of the same thing. Putin's pretending that this woman got killed by the Ukrainians. I would bet Putin killed her. I say this because Putin has a record of killing his political opponents, or killing anybody, I would say, that's useful. Most famously, Putin, people believe that Putin blew up an apartment building in Moscow in 1999, killing, I want to say I remember 300 people, innocent people in an apartment building in Moscow, that he blew up in order to rise to power, that basically he claimed it was Chechen terrorists and all this kind of crazy stuff. He's poisoned people all over Europe. He's killed journalists at home. He's killed political oppositions. We know the poisoning of the opposition leaders. I mean, you name it. I think Putin did it. And I think it's for this reason, because now, at least, even though the war isn't going well for Russia, and frankly, they're not going to make any advancements from now on, probably, they can blow the hell out of Ukraine in the next day and say, oh, look what we did, cruise missiles, exciting. And all the Russian people, like those soldiers in the Hunt for Red October, go, yay, even though what's happening is totally irrelevant. It's not. Anyway, that's what I think is going on. Let's see what happens. Obviously, I'm a little worried about what happens in Ukraine today. The fact that the Americans said, get out, worries me. They're worried that the Russians are going to go after civilian targets like they always do, but worse, that they're going to hit Kyiv, the capital, hard. I wonder whether they're finally going to go after some of the government ministries, because remember, to date, they really haven't, the Russians really haven't gone after the government ministries in Kyiv. They haven't blown up the president's office and all these kind of things. With cruise missiles, they can do that. So let's see. But anyway, it's officially past midnight now in Kyiv, and it is officially Independence Day. There were a lot of sirens, civil defense sirens going off across the country right before I came on. I was following online. So attacks are underway. Kharkiv especially, attacks are underway, but let's see what happens with how significant this gets. All right, let me tell you what else here. Oh, actually, and Zelensky did say, Zelensky said, if they attack us, they will receive a response, a powerful response. That's going to be interesting too, because I think Ukraine, for example, blowing up the car bomb, Ukraine probably has that ability, maybe not right in Moscow, but they probably have the ability, and they've been holding back. And if they were going to do it, they wouldn't blow up the relatively insignificant daughter of some guy, right? They would go after a general, right? They'd go after, the minister of defense, something like that. They wouldn't go after like this crazy woman who nobody had ever really heard of. So let's see what happens. But in any case, the other thing Zelensky warned about was there is still concern, and now I'd say even more concern after Putin going nuts about this car bomb, or faking going nuts about this car bomb, that the Russians are going to hold a show trial of the Azov battalion soldiers who, remember, these are the guys and women who were holed out in the steel plant, the Azovstal steel plant in Mariupol in southern Ukraine. And the Russians were battling them for months. And 14,000 Russians were unable to beat 2,000 Ukrainians. I mean, pretty amazing. And finally, the Ukrainians gave up because they ran out of weapons, ammunition, food, water, and pretty much they were going to be dead in a week. And Zelensky said, look, give up. At least we can try to trade you, whatever. Well, now there are signs that Putin is looking at doing show trials of these guys, because these are the guys that Putin claims are, NZs, right? And it's a lie, but Putin, trying to justify the war, has come up with all sorts of crazy excuses. So, and they could execute them. They could. I mean, Webadeb saying execute them. He could. I mean, let's face it. At this point, there's nothing holding him back. Let me tell you along those lines a story that I got later on the show, but I'll tell you now. The Russians just admitted that, and mind you, the number I'm sure is greater, because anything they admit is far worse. The Russians just admitted that they took 1,000 orphan children from Mariupol, which was that city that they just destroyed in southern Ukraine. They still occupy it, and adopted them into Russian families, sent them to Russia, and spread them around the entire country. So these children are now gone. These are Ukrainian kids. Stole them, adopted them into Russian families. Now, somebody had asked in the comments on TikTok where the parents were probably killed by the Russians. But I got news for you. Usually you got more family than that, right? So even if the parents had died, there are family, there's extended family, there are neighbors. You don't just take kids. And I mean, at the very least, you would turn them over to the Ukrainians, and the Ukrainians would put them up for adoption with other Ukrainian families. But you don't just steal. It's crazy. They admitted to stealing 1,000 children. And somebody had tweeted about this, one of the defense guys I follow, and said that this is genocide. One of the definitions of genocide, apparently, and he took the quote, but more or less it was taking children and transferring them from like one group to another. I mean, when you think about it on its face, you're not just stealing the children, you are stealing their identity. I mean, it's like a spy novel or something. You're stealing these Ukrainian kids and bringing them up as Russians, and possibly never even telling them that they're Ukrainian and that they were stolen to start with. It's horrible. No, it's a violation of everything. But, the Russians don't care. This is the kind of stuff where I wish every time the Russians would do something like this, we would turn around and say, okay, that's another war crime. We are now going to give Ukraine this weapon system that you didn't want us to give them. Keep it up, and we're going to give them even more. Every time will be a weapon system that we haven't given them before, that we've been holding back. T-72 tanks. You do this? Great. We're giving 100 T-72 tanks. Keep going. And if tomorrow you do something else stupid, maybe we'll give them some fighter jets. But I feel like we've got to extract a price, on the Russians as this is happening. The U.S. is giving a new $3 billion billion with a B, thank you, Kay, aid package to Ukraine. We're announcing it tomorrow in the States. It's already Independence Day in Ukraine, but for us, the 24th is tomorrow for most of you. So we're going to be announcing it tomorrow. The details are not out. What we do know is the Pentagon official said that the new weapons, The new weapons did not appear to include types of arms that had not been provided previously. That's a horrible sentence. Basically, it looks like we're not admitting to giving them any new weapons they hadn't already gotten. That's what it is. But the official said it would focus on ammunition and more medium-term objectives like defense systems. Interesting. I've got the adopted kids. Oh, this was sort of a funny side story, but I had to tell you just because I read it and I went, classic Russian. Russia claims an ammunition depot in Belgorod. Belgorod is that town that's right across from Kharkiv. So if you look at a Ukrainian map, I'll say square. It's not really a square. But in the northeast corner is Kharkiv, the second largest city. And the Kharkiv is literally 15 miles from the Russian border. And then you go over the Russian border another 20 miles, maybe 25, and you hit the Russian town of Belgorod. So Belgorod and Kharkiv are right there next to each other, basically. Well, Russia's claiming that an ammunition depot, ammunition storage that caught fire in Belgorod was due to heat. The weather, it was due to the hot weather. The weather just got so hot that the ammunition started exploding. One of the things it was the Ukrainians. I mean, it was the Ukrainians. One of the things that I find amazing is so many, I think I mentioned this last night, so many of the excuses Russia gives are so self-incriminating and so self-deprecating, right? Like, oh, so, oh God, oh God, oh my God, I hate the Midwest. I kid you not. Oh, I thought it was like something. No, ant, but the ant was this big. I mean, it was this. I'm going to show you on this side. It was this big. Oh, God. I hate those things. Oh my God. Chicago. I swear to God, sometimes it's like the deep south here. We don't have those ants in DC. They're the biggest freaking ants you've ever seen. And it's walking across my screen as I'm talking and something catches my eye. And I'm like, oh God. Oh my God. Okay, I'm okay. Oh Lord. I think people thought carpenter ant before. It's not a termite. We think carpenter ants. Oh my God. Oh, well, the thing too, like I've had lots of eye issues with, I've had retinal detachments, things like that. So I've got floaters and things. So I'm used to, as I'm talking, seeing little things go back and forth. And you learn when you have eye issues, stop it. Just stop it, Cal. You learn when you have eye issues to almost ignore them, because I literally saw something going like this and thought, oh, it's my stupid floater. And then I looked at the screen and it looked like one of those ads you see on remember, I think some web page had done this. Remember they had like a web ad years ago that was like termites walking on the web screen. And I looked, and in my brain I said, oh, it's an advertisement with an ant. That's weird. And then I went, it's an ant. Oh my God. Oh my God. I hate these things. Okay. I flicked it away from the table. Oh my God. Okay. I'm back. We're good. Don't want to lose too many people here. Oh dear Lord, I hate these things. All right, so the depot. So yes, what the roaches on the TV screen, that was it. So anyway, so yes, but the Russians will make up these excuses that are just the most self-incriminating excuses. Like, oh, you didn't blow up our ammunition depot. We're just really bad at this. We blew it up ourselves because we just don't take care of these things, right? What's the other thing that they've been, oh, well, I told you this yesterday or the day. See, I mean, my head's been itching anyway. Now it's going to be even worse. I've told you guys this one the other day too, that they love to say on the TV show at night, the big, whatever, Russia won or whatever it is. And they love to talk about how, well, the reason we're not doing well in the war is because the Ukrainians have American weapons. And I love that because I'm kind of like, oh, so you mean you admit that American weapons kick your ass? That's what you're admitting. That you're losing, or you're at best tied against a power that you claim is really weak because of American weapons. So first, again, you're admitting that American weapons are kicking your butt. But second of all, you're admitting that lowly Ukrainians, I don't think they're lowly, but the Russians do. Lowly Ukrainians are kicking your butt by using American weapons. Imagine what Americans would do against Russia in a war. Okay. Jesus Christ. What? Oh my God. Hold on, folks. I'm saying where the hell this thing went. Oh my God. Twice? Dear Lord. Oh my God. I mean, the worst thing is twice. Like, how many times? Dear God. That would be 3 times. Every time I flick it away, it comes back. Okay, I just slapped it. No, I don't even care about touch. Even though I hate touching bugs, I just slapped the little mofo. Oh my God. Okay, so number 2, it was walking around the base of my iPad. So I blew it over there. Then it's here on the front of the table, which now makes me wonder if there's multiples of these things. Oh my God. I hate bugs. I freaking hate bugs. Oh God. Well, no, I hate this because then it like, then you're like on edge for every little thing. You know what I mean? Because then you're Vladimir Putin sent these ants. No, because then you've any little thing you've like, I've got allergies, so of course I'm always feeling itchy. Any little thing you feel, you're like, bleh. Oh my God, the thing's like this big. Well, I hit it hard, which either means it's dead or it's walking on the base of my feet and it's about to crawl up my leg. One moment, we'll continue. It would be nice if I actually could see the damn thing and step on it for real. See, that's like even, okay, we're getting back to the news here. I swear to God, I mean, this is like even worse, like hitting it to kill it and it flies away, and it flies away, it moves away. So now you have no idea if you killed it or if it's about to walk up your leg. Unfreaking believable. Oh my God. Okay, we're putting out more of the ant. I've got some really good ant poison from Mom. It's a good ant killer. That's good because it doesn't hurt animals, but it digests in the ant's stomach. So it's one of those nice ones that can't be used. Oh my God. I'm just so freaked out. I don't like bugs, in case you haven't been able to tell. Oh, in bed. They've done that years before too. We haven't had these inside in a while, but they, years ago, oh God, years ago, I was here at the time of year that they had invaded the house, like the bedroom. And literally you're in bed and you're looking up at the ceiling and you're watching this thing. I also got bruised like hell the other day, and I don't know how. You're watching this thing walk across the ceiling over your head, and you're going, and then you're trying to sleep, and you're going, what the hell is this? I hate bugs. I mean, I don't like them. Yeah. Like friendly spiders are fine if they're on my wall. I leave the friendly spiders to eat other bugs. But again, a little ant I kill. This mother is this. It's like an inch long almost. I mean, oh God. Okay. All right, we're continuing here. All right, we're continuing. Enough of that. So, nuclear plant. Updates on the nuclear plant. Oh my God. The Energoatom, which is the Ukrainian nuclear company, said that Russia. Oh, listen to this. Russian forces have brought 2 more armored personnel carriers. Stop it. Seriously, don't tell me stuff like that. It's gonna just freak me out. The Russians have brought 2 more armored personnel carriers and 6 trucks to the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant. Now Russia has over 40 pieces of military equipment at the plant, according to Energoatom. Russia has also deployed additional troops there, so not good. All right, enough of the shirt thing. Don't do this to me, guys. All right, stop. All right, no more of the shirt jokes, or I'm literally going to ask mods to mute people for the rest of the show who tell me it's in my hair or on my shirt, because you're freaking me out. Seriously. It was funny, but now I got to do this, and it's not nice. So, all right, don't do it. Thank you, Ashley. Don't do it. Just don't block them, but mute them for the show. All right. Ukrainians are continuing to target the bridges. This is good. You know that where we think the counteroffensive is probably going to hit the hardest is the region of Kherson and also the town of Kherson, which is, again, like if you're looking at Ukraine, it's kind of southernmost Ukraine, right north of Crimea. And we think the I think at least that the Ukrainians are probably going to hit that area first because it's the area they've been hitting the hardest in terms of going after bridges, going after everything. They continue to target the bridges. This was a quick update on that. Ukrainian forces struck both road bridges across the Dnipro River in Kherson Oblast in the last 2 days, likely rendering both unusable for heavy transport. That's good because that means it's going to be hard for the Russians to bring tanks across, heavy vehicles laden with weapons, things like that, right? Ukrainian advisor to the Kherson Oblast military administration claimed that Ukrainian forces again struck the Antonivsky road bridge as a Russian convoy was transporting ammunition across the bridge. That's good, if true. Russian sources claimed that Ukrainian HIMARS, which is the weapon system we provided Ukraine, the long-range rockets, but we gave them the rockets that go like 40 miles to 60 miles, but there are ones that go much farther. The Russians claimed that Ukrainian HIMARS strike damaged the roadbed and injured 15 construction workers who were repairing the bridge. Institute for the Study of War says images and footage of large fires on the road bridge are consistent with claims that Ukrainian strikes targeted explosives on the bridge. So good. Now so the other update with this comes from British intelligence, but it's the perfect follow-on to this. Is one sec, quick sip of water. The follow-on to this is, let me get my glasses and read this. Hang on. Oh my God. Here we go. Okay, so this is from British Defense Intelligence. Over the weekend, Russia probably started moving barges into position to construct a substantial floating bridge over the Dnipro River. This is that same area, immediately beside the damaged Antonovsky road bridge. The crossing is the key link between Russian-occupied Kherson and the east. I'd mentioned this in previous shows that Kherson, the town that the Russians occupy, is it's the only area really that the Russians occupy on the other side of the river. This is the river, the Dnipro or Dnieper, that cuts through Ukraine going all the way up to Kyiv, the capital, north, okay, cuts the entire country in half. The Russians are on the eastern side of the river everywhere but this town of Kherson and within a couple miles of it. So what the Ukrainians are doing is hitting the bridges in order to isolate this town because it sure looks like this will be the first place the Ukrainians go after, right? Because if they're able to cut the town off from supplies, but also by cutting off the bridges, you also make it so that the soldiers can't retreat if they're losing, right? So listen to this. So in response, the Russians are setting up for several weeks, Russian forces and local civilians have relied on a ferry crossing of the waterway. If Russia completes the improvised bridge, it will almost certainly increase the capacity of the crossing point compared to the ferry. But these are with barges and things. A floating bridge would likely still be vulnerable to Ukrainian offensive action, British intelligence concludes. They are correct, because you will remember in the East, how in the East, we're now talking, God, was it 4 months ago, probably 5 months ago? The Russians were making a big crossing of a river there in eastern Ukraine. And because the Ukrainians had taken out the bridges, the Russians had to use these floating pontoon bridges. So the Ukrainians waited until the Russians built most of the bridge, like 7 of the 8 pontoons of this bridge. And mind you, they're pontoons that are strong enough that they can hold tanks and things. I mean, it's a really big deal. Like they're not just, pontoons that a person walks across and goes, whoa. So the Ukrainians waited, didn't fire. The Russians get 7 of these pontoons. They're about to get the 8th. And in order not to waste time, the Russians started driving the tanks across the pontoons as each one was laid down, getting ready for the final one. So the final one's about to go, the 8th. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 are there, right? Tank, 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 personnel. And best thing, tons of tanks and vehicles and personnel lined up on the shore in a line waiting to cross. So what do the Ukrainians do? They blew the hell out of the entire thing. They blew the hell out of the bridge. Everything sank that was on the bridge. The pictures of the aftermath were exactly that. That deserves some confetti on TikTok, okay? The pictures of the aftermath showed all of these tanks just like in the water. I mean, like sunk, tanks don't float, and destroyed a bunch of these vehicles on the shoreline as well. So this is what hopefully the Ukrainians, thank you guys, what the Ukrainians are hopefully going to be doing again if the Russians go this way. The resistance, or I should say resistance. Yeah, I've got maybe two or three more stories. That's it. So resistance. Ukrainian, I mean, it's kind of a nasty story, but nice that the Ukrainians fought back. So hang on a sec. Yes, the tanks were promoted to submarines. Exactly, Max. Ukrainian civilians attacked a Russian soldier. This was in Institute for the Study of War reported this. Really good defense think tank in Washington, D.C. that I like. So Ukrainian civilians attacked a Russian soldier in occupied Melitopol, which is another town, southern Ukraine, pretty much it's in one of the provinces, but it's between Kherson and Zaporizhia, which is the next province next to it. And Melitopol's kind of right in between the two. It's also occupied by the Russians. Ukrainian civilians attacked a Russian soldier in occupied Melitopol overnight on August 21st, 22nd, so it'd be 2 nights ago. Footage of the aftermath. Oh my God. I'd love to see this footage. Footage of the aftermath shows Russian soldiers carrying an injured soldier on a stretcher away from a crowd on the street. Ukraine's resistance center reported that Ukrainian partisans attacked a Russian soldier who harassed an underage girl. That's what happened. So this soldier was harassing an underage girl, and it looks like the crowd descended on him and injured the guy to the point where he had to be carried away in a stretcher. I don't like the story because I don't like the idea of him harassing some girl, but the fact that these guys, these are not fearful people. Yeah, Kay sending boxing gloves on TikTok. These are not people who are afraid. It's constantly. I'm just constantly impressed with the Ukrainians. They've gone through so much, but like that. Actually, if you think back, we ought to pull up the. I ought to pull up the video again sometime just to show you guys and read the transcript. But you remember at the beginning of the war, and one of the towns in northern Ukraine that the Russians had immediately taken over. And there's video of this elderly, babushka, grandma, like Ukrainian grandma. And you can hear of the discussion, and then somebody transcribed it into English, and she's going up to him. And most of you are going to remember this, but she goes up and she goes, here are some seeds. And he's like, excuse me? Sunflower seeds, put them in your pocket. And he goes, ma'am, please move on. No, put them in your pocket, because when we kill you, sunflowers will come up from the ground from your dead body that you're going to fertilize the sunflowers that come up from your body. Oh, it was crazy. And the conversation went on like this until finally, thank you, Inspired Woman, until finally the guy is like, ma'am, please move on. I don't want any trouble. I don't, because she's this old grandma. Please, I don't want any trouble. And he says, and she's, I'm paraphrasing. And she goes, trouble? You don't want trouble? You invaded my effing country. Get the F out of here. And she's swearing like a Scotsman, and she's this grandma. But it was the best line, because he used some phrase similar to "I don't want trouble" or whatever. And what his phrase was for her to say, "You've got some nerve because you've already brought trouble to my country." And she literally did. She said, "Get the F out of here." Oh, it was. But when you think about this though, actually, this is almost worth an essay, because that had to be. God, that could have been the first week or two of the war. We have to find out, but it had to be the first couple of weeks at best. That was such an introduction to the Ukrainian spirit, but also how this war was going to go, in terms of the Ukrainians just showing such spirit and standing up to the Russians. And it probably was like day 4. Yeah, News JPEG is saying, but it really did. It gave us sort of an interesting introduction to just how the Ukrainians were going to stand up to the Russians in ways that maybe people didn't anticipate, kind of amazing. Okay, some good German news, although it was kind of funny. This was from Reuters, but it was summarized by the Kyiv Independent, which is the Ukrainian paper, throwing in their own editorial comment, but not unjust. So Reuters, German Chancellor Scholz promises to send arms worth 500 million euros to Ukraine. Thank you, Chad. I always love that galaxy. I didn't know we still had it up. Thank you. Appreciate that. So Scholz, Chancellor of Germany, promises to send arms worth 500 million euros to Ukraine. The new promises by German Chancellor Olaf Scholz were reported by Reuters. This is from the Kyiv Independent. Were reported by Reuters, which cited an anonymous source familiar with the matter. The arms supplies are expected to include 3 Iris-T air defense systems, a dozen armored recovery vehicles, 20 rocket launchers, precision ammunition, and anti-drone systems, according to the report. Germany has promised to supply Iris-T systems for months, but so far they have not arrived. I mean, it's like, again, Ukrainians, but they're like, yep, he's promising to send those same defense systems that he had promised months ago, and they're still not here. So he's promising again. I'm trying. I'm trying to give the Germans credit here. Scholz is, a little pezzo di merda, this guy, unfortunately. Finally, some more evidence of the sanctions not working. And it's funny because people on TikTok weren't understanding this, but clearly some of them were paid not to understand this. 200 cinemas have now closed in Russia, and 1/3 of cinema complexes. And I'm not sure what they mean by a cinema complex. Obviously, it's a bigger thing. My guess is it maybe is like cinema and shopping mall and stuff like that. What is interesting is everybody again, the people on TikTok trying to excuse Russia were like, oh, well, that kind of stuff. I think malls and things. That's what I'm thinking, Deb. People were saying, oh, well, that kind of thing is happening in the West because of COVID too. The problem is this is in the last 6 months. This isn't in the last 2 years. In the last 6 months, and I did a story on this all the way back April, maybe, and the crazy Russian propagandists on TikTok went nuts. It's not true. It's untrue. This didn't happen. So I went and did more research, and I pulled up the sources were TASS, Izvestia, and I forget the third Russian news source, but it's Pravda, I think. It was like the 3 biggest names in Russian news that said, oh yeah, they've been we've shut down the Russian not film industry, but cinema industry, because something like I had read 79% or so of movies shown in Russia are Western films, and the Western films can't go there. And then the trolls were saying, well, who cares? That doesn't we're really going to hurt Russia by cutting off movies. The problem is these cinemas have closed. These cinema complexes in malls have closed. And even a couple months ago, they were saying it was the Association of Cinema Owners of Russia was quoted in the article, translated, of course. I don't really read Russian, but translated. And she was saying that it's not just that the movie theaters are getting devastated, but shopping malls are getting devastated because people aren't going to the theater, and therefore they're not going to the shopping mall. And there was at least a connection there of whether people went to the mall and then went to the movies, or they, in other words, they knew they were going to the movie and they went shopping first, or they went shopping after. But now that they're not going to the movies, they're not going to the malls either. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Talk to Russian teenagers. They're missing Coke. And this is the other thing is you also want to make life uncomfortable for people. You want everyday Russians to understand that this war has an impact. And let's face it, people could say, oh, movies, who cares? Well, they lost Coca-Cola. They lost McDonald's. They're losing their movies. I mean, if you think of it in terms of your life, think of it as terms of, we did something really bad and we're sanctioned. You've lost your cable TV, right? You lost, because let's face it, Russian TV isn't exactly Netflix, okay? These guys were getting the good movies by going to movie theaters and stuff. So you've lost your Netflix. You've lost literally all the good cable channels. Now you've got, when I say basic cable, I mean the way it used to be when we were growing up with the TVs, you'd slap on the side, 2, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 32, and 26. And those are the only channels. I mean, all your favorite restaurants are, you're closed. At least your favorite. IKEA. You can't go to IKEA anymore. All these places that, and again, in a place like Russia, IKEA matters because you're talking a country where, quality of living ain't fabulous. IKEA is a big deal. I like IKEA, but I like it as an upper middle class Westerner. Imagine being a place like Russia where IKEA is like, oh my God, quality stuff that's affordable, gone. If you're a woman, Sephora, gone. I mean, it's it's all the daily niceties that are disappearing, and each one individually may not cause them to overthrow their government, but you're putting pain on the populace overall, and they should have pain because, first of all, they just should. I want them to feel it. I want them to every day realize when their kids say, let's go to McDonald's, and say, well, there isn't a McDonald's. The parents have to think, yeah, because we decided to invade that neighbor and do horrible things. It's a small thing, but it's not like there's any one thing that's going to teach them, And maybe, thank you, Kay. Maybe nothing will teach them. But I also think it's a justice thing, too. And this is why I don't like the idea. Actually, that's true of Visa. Daniel's saying Visa and SWIFT. I also think like the whole issue with I was going to say visas, Daniel, as well. The whole issue of not letting Russians get tourist visas into Europe. It's just sort of a moral issue as well for me. I don't know, a karma issue or something. I don't know what to call it, where, if their country is committing genocide and most of them support the genocide, maybe these people shouldn't be allowed to go sun in southern France. Maybe they shouldn't be allowed to go to Nice. I mean, I think, yeah. So, anywho. Okay, that was it for the news. Actually, I will say, so now I'll say a little bit more. So this Ukrainian guy, 22 years old, actually, I looked it up, set up this website. And what did I say? I'm already forgetting now. What's the name of the site for raising the money for the missiles? Oh my God. What was it? Sign My Rocket? I think it's signmyrocket.com. And I was telling it to you guys about it yesterday. And as we were talking about it, we kind of hit on it and said, yes, Sign My Rocket. Thank you, guys. I said, what about us doing this? Here's the way it works, okay? He's got lots of different categories, as cheap as like $150 to put a name on an artillery shell or a message in an artillery shell. And if you pay, they'll take a picture of it. If you pay $1,000, they'll do a video of the artillery shell being loaded and fired with your thing on it, your message, right, at the Russians. And I thought, wouldn't it be kind of fun for us to do it for our community? I mean, I say TikTok, but YouTube, everybody else. And, we can come up with the message afterwards. I say we raise as much as we can. Like I said, I've got it up on my, it's in my Beacons link, which I will show you guys again on TikTok. Hang on, where's my Beacons link? Here's my Beacons link. Not TikTok. I mean on you all there, YouTube and everything else. For you guys, you can just go to my profile and click on the Beacons link on TikTok, and it'll take you to the page it takes you to. The very first thing is this, and I mentioned use my PayPal, use my Cash App, use my Venmo. Just send me the money. I'm going to aggregate it for the next few days. Let's see, maybe a week. Let's see. And the best part is that the money, see a syndicate. Thanks for joining us. As always, the best part is, even though the money will go to buy something fun, again, it's a little edgy. The money is actually going to a nonprofit that buys supplies for the Ukrainian troops. And it buys things, it was showing examples of like night vision goggles and things like that, right? Body armor, stuff like that. So it's actually really cool what they're doing with it. It's not like they're simply some rich guy taking our money and putting a name on a howitzer. That's not how it is. In other words, if we give a big enough donation, they will thank us by doing these kind of things. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to raise as much money from you guys if I can. If we get 5,000, that's the big one. They will literally put whatever we want on the side of a howitzer artillery unit, which are the big guns. And for the duration of the war, the message stays there on the side. And I really do. I think I would love our TikTok community. I mean, and frankly, the TikTok, my TikTok handle is @Aravosis. It's so many of the different communities. Other than YouTube, YouTube was being evil with me. They wouldn't let me use that. I think it would be kind of fun to do. And we think of a message. I mean, yesterday I was thinking of the message, even my dog hates you. But, we'd have to think of we'd have to really think what the message would be. And if we only get, people have already donated. If we only get $300, then we buy the $300 option, which is putting our name on a shell and getting a photo. Big deal, Gunny McGunny, or Gunny, no, it'd be Gunny McGunface. Gunny McGunface. We'll have to think of what it would be, but I think it would be really funny. I think it would, frankly, it's also good publicity for my TikTok, which I would love. Well, TikTok, I say TikTok, but meaning all of this broadcast, which I would love. But in keeping with what we've done, because we've already raised $58,000 for Ukraine for the various charity work we've done, and all of it's gone exclusively to Ukraine of that 58,000. I didn't touch any of it. This would be one more example of something. I mean, 100% of the money coming in, I'm using to buy this stuff. I'm not keeping any of it. Like I said, I think it's funny. I know some people may not like it, but I think it's funny. Yeah, Russian dudes, you're losing. And let's see, from Bucha with love. Yeah, that's pretty heavy. That is pretty heavy. Well, I was thinking something with my dog. I was thinking something with, I would like my TikTok handle, because also I think it's kind of funny, the whole TikTok thing too. You know, if shelling you is wrong, I don't want to be right. Okay, that's very funny. Well, and there's the Rocky and Bullwinkle jokes, because we've made a lot of jokes about Rocky and Bullwinkle over the last several months. Oh, that's funny. Chris is saying, my son who's 15 wants to do the rocket, so you can send the video as a party invitation to people. Well, and we'll see. I mean, if there's enough money, oh hell, if we go over 5,000, we could do a couple different things. But I do love the idea of it's on the side of it, and it's basically going to, and they promise they're not taking it down. It's going to stay on the side of the howitzer, which is kind of funny. Now, what I would love is to get it on the side of the howitzer with the TikTok handle, and at some point in the future, some Ukrainian soldier sees it, checks it out, and sends us a message. That would make my day. Just make my day. But yeah, it could be Rocky and Bullwinkle jokes. It could be my dog. Oh, I know, I'm older. But the Rocky and Bullwinkle, I explained it to a lot of the audience, Rocky and Bullwinkle. But we'll have to see a QR code. Well, no, the problem is it's Ukrainian troops who are literally writing it out by hand. So, oh, Alan, are you over there, Al? Well, no, I think the thing is they film it themselves. Like the troops get he's got some videos on the website, and the troops, you tell them what to write, they write it down, and they use their own phone camera to like do it. Yeah, we'll have to see. Anyway, we've got to get the money first. But I would hope if you guys can do it, I'd appreciate it. Like I said, I was going to use a bad word for this. I'm happy to pimp this out, because I'm not getting a dime. And the best part of this is we're simply raising money for Ukrainian troops to get the gear they need. And like I said, they were showing the goggles and other stuff. So it's a great thing to raise money for. I mean, I know, well, you guys are still into it, which is good. I was going to say, I know people aren't as into Ukraine anymore, but you all are, or you wouldn't be here. And since I'm not I hate asking money for myself. Since I'm not taking a dime, I am happy to lean on you people to donate. And I'm just going to take really everything coming into my PayPal, Venmo, and Cash App. I'm just going to put into this. So don't actually send me donations for myself right now, because it's too hard ooh, that was kind of funky with my hair. It's too hard to separate it out. So just don't even send me money for me right now, because I'm just going to consider everything being there. But in any case, there you go. I think it's pretty cool. So let's do it, guys, if we can. You can donate. The best way for the TikTok folks is go to my profile. Actually, I will show you. For the rest of you, you could go to that Beacons link and you'll see it. Or if somebody wants to put up hold on, I was going to say if I've got it handy here. I do have it handy here. Hold on. 1 second, guys. I'm going to send this for you guys over here on TikTok, on YouTube, etc. Okay, that's my info for you all. For you all, it's quite easy. You can go to my TikTok profile page. One moment. I also put a video up explaining it more. But if you go to, how the profile page on TikTok, you got all the videos. If you go to the top thing, notice how there's a URL, a link in there, HTTPS. It's the only link, HTTPS Beacons. Click it, and what comes up is a whole page of links. The top one, oh, hello. What the hell was that? Oh, here we go. It brought up an ad. So the top one, there's a little welcome thing, and look at that first thing. Let's help soldiers in Ukraine and advertise my TikTok. So what I do is I simply explain it. It links to my PayPal, But I also say below is, look what's below, PayPal, Venmo, Cash App. If you click each one of those, it'll take you to the thing. So if you guys could, I'd appreciate it. Like I said, and anybody who's got real money, feel free to throw in 100, $200. If you got it, do it. Again, I'm shameless since I'm not taking a dime. I'm the worst. I hate selling and asking for money, but if it's not for me, no problem. This is for the Ukraine. I mean, it's for me in the sense of we get to advertise the community, but this all goes to the Ukrainians. I love it. And this kid has already raised $250,000. Some of the papers have already, the U.S. papers have already checked into it. And just so you know, he sort of, his guarantee for him spending the money honestly is he's working with a Ukrainian nonprofit, an NGO, non-governmental organization. Thank you, Kay. And they are the ones who then are getting the gear for the Ukrainian soldiers. And the journalist talked to the Ukrainian nonprofit and they said, oh yeah, he's a volunteer with us and he's been raising a lot of money and blah, blah, blah. So they confirmed the kid was for real and it's an actual registered nonprofit in Ukraine. So let's do this. Okay, sorry. Let's ask. I'm happy to answer questions overall. I just got very excited about this because, like I said, we were talking about it yesterday and I thought, oh my God, this is so funny. So funny. Oh, where was actually, I wanted to show you really quick too. 1 second. Because we were talking about the t-shirts yesterday and I had ordered one myself just to show you. And it's pretty good. I actually went and did some edits anyway, but this is the t-shirt I got. Actually, well, again, the way the light's hitting it is going to make it look funny. It's actually darker. See, it's hard to tell. The way the light is hitting it makes it look lighter. It's not that light. It's actually quite dark, which is nice. But it's reflective. You almost have to go like this. It's great. Anyway, I'm very excited. What I did just to be safe is some people were saying that the shirts, basically the printing process lightens the shirt a little bit. And frankly, you really have to see that in person. It's way darker than it looks on here. Nonetheless, just to be safe, I pulled some of the t-shirts just to be safe. But these guys, I went through and I darkened them. I made them all much higher contrast. So they're going to print darker, which is good. So anyway, and you know what, by the way, too, if you go to the store is at erevosis.com. If you go to my store, the one thing you should know is I removed the white shirts because I am suspicious that the problem some people had, one woman in particular, I felt bad for her, but I mean, I offered her a refund. She said it was okay. Her husband liked the shirt, but on the white shirt, it looks a little lighter. It does look a little lighter on the white shirt. So honestly, I got rid of the white shirts, even though some people like white. Most people were buying dark, and I left the dark ones because you get it. I mean, even though this is a fundraiser, it helps me and we're doing it for Ukraine. I still want I want you guys to be happy. So, all right. Let me look at a few questions. And my voice has been really good, which I'm very excited. So I'm hoping this keeps up. My voice is so much better. I had 5 months practically. I had like 5 weeks of my voice being horrible, just horrible. The tri-pads, I'm waiting. I've actually, last little thing I'll say about this. I was a little concerned about the way the patches are printing. So what I did was I took the one patch that I really like, which is the Trident Ukrainian flag and then Ukraina, Ukraine in Ukrainian. I made it a lot darker and I bought one version for myself and then took it offline today. So I'm going to wait hopefully in the next 2 weeks, I get it. That's my test case to see how can I make this look better for those. And if I can't, but I don't want to sell those again until, whereas I'm still selling this and the other drawings and things. But as I said, I made it even darker. So even though in person, this is really dark, it's light on the screen here, but it's really dark in person. Any case, there you go. I'm over explaining. All right, let me look at a TikTok question since we don't have a lot of time here, only because I'm trying to preserve my voice. Since it's being better, I'm very excited. Hopefully it stays better. All right. Q&A. What do you think of a Trump basically sending Garland a veiled threat love letter? Yeah, this was very strange. I know this isn't Ukraine, but occasionally we do off topics. Donald Trump sent the Attorney General a letter in which he basically threatened him, but only the way Donald Trump can. I've seen experts say before that Donald Trump basically speaks like a mafia guy, where he knows how to get just to the line but not cross it of illegality. And basically, he wrote the Attorney General, who is the head of our Justice Department. Instead of it being like a secretary, we call it the Attorney General for some reason. It's just a unique thing, but he's the head of the Department of Justice. And Trump writes the guy, and he says, I'm paraphrasing, but there's a lot of anger in this country. It's growing because of what you did. A lot of anger. Things are going to get out of control. I'm really worried. But just so you know, if you need my help calming things down, I'm happy to help. There's a lot of anger, and it's growing because of Trump and Fox News and the other people. Basically, this was a threat to the Justice Department from Trump, saying, if you don't call off the dogs, I'm not going to help you, and I'm going to get people even angrier. It's bad. It's bad. But there was a legal expert on TV who said basically it wasn't enough of a threat for them to be able to go after Trump. So smart, No, he's very good at being bad. He's very, I mean, it really is. He's an expert at going just to the line of doing things. But yeah. Let me see. Okay. Oops, my dog is like moving next to me just to freak me out. I really hope Russia isn't putting bombs in the trucks they're storing at the nuclear power plants, then set them off and blame Ukraine. They could. I mean, look. Would Putin? I'm not sure. Let me rephrase that. Will Putin? I'm not sure. Would Putin? Absolutely, right? Would Putin blow up the nuclear power? Is Putin capable of blowing up the nuclear power plant? Yes, absolutely. Will Putin do it? I don't know. But I think he would, especially there is that fact. There is the fact of, if Putin isn't doing so well in the war, that he tries to find ways of shaking things up more and things like that. That's definitely possible. There are no illegal activities that Biden and his son were involved in. So thanks for asking. Oh, I see. The troll is asking that. Yeah, there were no illegal activities. So that's good. I'd like you to do me a favor, though. What happened to the Molotov cocktails the Ukrainians were making at the beginning of the invasion? That's a really good question. I've got to ask Vlad about that. Vlad's my Ukrainian friend who has been helping do all the fundraising, helping us coordinate with the Ukrainian aid groups that we've been raising money for. And I've got to ask him because I've been curious about that too. Remember at the beginning, the Ukrainians were making like 10,000 Molotov cocktails in every corner. I don't know. Yeah, Inspired Woman says they're making Molotov cocktails in Russia now, meaning they're worrying about their own land. I don't know. I'm assuming they got used to a degree, but I don't know. That's a really good question. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, that's interesting. Annette Rasmussen is saying, by the way, and I always forget Annette. I always want to say you're in Denmark. You're either Denmark or Norway, and I always forget. I want to say Denmark. Annette says, by the way, we got 44 U.S. helicopters to our harbor yesterday. NATO wants to use our harbor in the future to defend Balticum. I've never heard that phrase, meaning the Baltic region. Denmark. Okay, she's in Denmark. Thanks. Oh, that's interesting. Elise says she's checking Twitter. No major explosions in Kyiv so far. Okay, that's good. Can we trade Trump for Brittany? All right, that was cute. If the Russian Federation attacks Kyiv and hits the U.S. embassy, would it trigger Article 5? Not necessarily, for a couple of reasons. One, you may recall during our very just war, and I say that seriously, against Serbia back in 1999 or so, when the Serbians were ethnically cleansing neighboring Kosovo. And the US and NATO came and we blew the hell out of Serbia because they were bad, and we won and saved the Kosovars. The US, accidentally blew up the Chinese embassy. Now, I suspect it was accidental. Bill Clinton would not blow up the Chinese embassy. Our military leaders wouldn't do it. Some military person, I don't know. We all thought it was pretty suspicious that the Chinese embassy got blown up, but the Clinton administration ended up offering money to the families and all this kind of stuff. But it is an act of war if it is intentional. I mean, if the U.S. blew up that embassy on purpose, it's an act of war. That embassy is Chinese territory, and the same thing, if the Russians were to blow up a U.S. embassy or another NATO embassy, it would be an act of war. Now, yes, it triggers Article 5, but Article 5 with NATO is the article of the NATO Document of Incorporation, or whatever it's called, the treaty, that says an attack on one member state is an attack on all. The problem is the member states need to get together when there's an attack and discuss and vote on whether it's an attack or not, right? So you get to the point where, one, maybe it's the Latvian embassy that gets blown up. The Latvians say, we want to invoke Article 5. All the NATO heads get together and they kind of debate it. I think they even have to vote on it, And then, as somebody pointed out the other day, and I studied this stuff in school. I didn't even realize this, that no NATO country is required to go to war. Even if Article 5 is invoked, it means each country may respond in the way they best think appropriate and suited to their talents and blah, blah, blah. So you could have Latvia invaded by Russia and all of NATO say, oh yeah, it's Article 5, but Article 5 says we don't have to help. Now, let's face it. If Russia did that, the US would go to war. Britain would go to war. France, I think, would go to war. You would see the Baltic states would go to war because they've been good. Poland has pretty much made clear they would go to war. So I think you'd have a lot of countries that would go to war anyway, and a lot of the important ones. Germany, the German people, I think, would be on our side. Schultz, I have no idea. But so that's an interesting point, though, when, in other words, and this was sort of, every time the dog keeps like turning for a better angle below me, but it's my mom's dog who has a lot of fur, and I keep feeling something on my leg, and I'm like, okay, it's just Kukla. Okay, yeah. But yeah, it's the problem with the NATO Charter and everything is it's sort of it requires, I know, it requires sort of mutual consent across the board. So that can be an issue. Oh, thank you, Lynn. That's cute. I haven't seen that dog. That must be a new one for actually, we're heading to the end of August already. My God, the end of August. Isn't this crazy? I mean, I was getting tired of summer because in DC it was like 90 every day, but I'm still like, Elise says Adam Kinzinger, who's a Republican congressman, said that a nuclear accident at Zaporizhia would be treated as an Article 5 violation. What do you think? It is, but again, we'd kind of have to decide. For example, the Russians blow up the nuclear plant knowing it could rain radiation down on Europe, on the rest of Europe, including NATO. Would we declare war, right? Let's say two scenarios. One, it does rain radiation on NATO countries. Two, it doesn't rain radiation, but it could have. So the Russians knew that they could have damaged, that they were willing to spill radiation on NATO countries, but it didn't work out that way, right? You've got that scenario. Then you got the scenario where it does. Now you get the other problem. Even if we know the Russians did it, and it pours radiation onto Poland and Hungary and whoever else, Romania. Turkey. You've then got the problem of proving it to our satisfaction. Did the Russians do it? Right? Can we prove the Russians did it? That it wasn't a mistake? that right. I mean, we know it wasn't a mistake, but we have to be able to prove it wasn't a mistake. I think my suspicion is what we would do is that's the kind of thing, again, where we would have to massively ramp up our response. And I'm not sure what it would be. But we would have to make clear to Russia, thank you, Bonnie, we'd have to make clear to Russia that, okay, you've just crossed a line, a massive line, and I don't know if we give F-16s to Ukraine or what we do, but we would have to do something massive that Russia would hate. All right, guys, I'm going to call it quits because we're 6 minutes after, and I am still feeling glad that I'm getting my voice back. We can go over to Discord for a few minutes. Let's do that, and we'll just hang out, chat a little bit in the discord.aravosis.com, and it's you scroll down in the voice channels and look for the one that says John's After Show. I'll go over there. We'll hang out. I'm trying not to go too. Oh, thank you for that too. I'm trying not to go too far. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Christy. I don't want to go too long because, again, I'm glad that my voice is coming back. So this is good. So let's go over right now. So Discord. Oh, the recap. I'm sorry. That's true. Let me do the quick recap. Sorry. U.S. is evacuating all Americans from Ukraine, warning of an imminent attack. There's a new $3 billion U.S. aid package. We will get the details on that tomorrow, which for us is the official Ukrainian Independence Day. It's already Independence Day there, the 24th, but here it's the 23rd, so we'll announce it tomorrow. Russia stole 1,000. Russia just admitted to stealing 1,000 Ukrainian kids from Mariupol and adopting them to Russian families across the country. Thank you for the butterflies there. Russia claims that an ammunition depot that blew up in Belgorod, it's one of its cities near Ukraine, happened because of the hot weather. We all know it happened because the Ukrainians must have done it. The Russians allegedly have moved a lot more equipment into the nuclear plant, which is very bad. Let me see here real quick. Sorry, Orc Hunter is saying the trade winds go from east to west and will blow any fallout to Orkland from east to west. That's bad, though. East to west means it's going to blow. You mean the opposite. If it's east to west, it's going over towards NATO. Because the west would be Romania, Moldova, Hungary, right? That's west. Unless you mean the opposite. The Ukrainians are continuing to target bridges north of Kherson. That's great. What else we got? The Russians are setting up another floating bridge, which hopefully will be a joyous occasion for Ukrainian artillery. Resistance. Ukrainians got together and beat up a Russian soldier who was harassing an underage girl. He had to be taken away by stretcher. Do not mess with Ukrainians, and do not mess with their women either. Reuters says that Germany is promising to send arms worth 500 million euros to Ukraine. And the sanctions have caused a lot of damage to Russian movie theaters in the last 6 months, including 200 cinemas having closed and 1/3 of cinema complexes suspending operations, which means employees are being laid off of work. It means it's having impacts on other stores in the area. People go shopping, they go to restaurants after a movie. So again, more economic damage being caused to Russia. Don't believe the Russian TikTok trolls, the Russian propagandists who will tell you the sanctions ain't working, because the sanctions are working. The issue is no one said the sanctions were going to make Russia leave Ukraine. That wasn't the idea. The idea was to hurt their economy, so it makes it harder and harder for them to continue the war, and it makes it harder and harder for Russia to continue to finance the war because their economy keeps getting worse and worse. And final point here, the Russians are also having to spend a lot of their money reserves, basically money in the great government piggy bank, which was on the order of $600 billion with a B, that they've had to keep spending that money to prop up the economy. That money's only going for so long, and then it's gone. So, sayonara. All right, guys, over to Discord for a few minutes, discord.aravosis.com. Otherwise, tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel. All right? Okay. Good night, all. I'm going to sign off and head over to Discord, discord.aravosis.com. Bye, you.